Welcome to Gotta Run with Will. My name is Jeff Benjamin. I write for the Running Network, and I'm from Staten Island. And I'm your host for today's segment. We are really lucky here today because we have a strong New York flavor in the studio, as well as a flavor of the Manhattan College Jasper program. Joining me today is the two-time Olympian, New York State High School mile record holder, still to this day, 4 minutes and 2 seconds from Power Memorial. His son, who we're going to get into in a little while, achieved Olympic glory in 2016, winning the gold medal in the 1500. The director of cross country and track and field at Manhattan College, Matt Centrowitz. Welcome.
Thank you, Jeff.
And also joining us is the head coach, a member of Team USA 2015, 1500 meters. Personal best, we discussed this before, a 4:03 for 1500. Your mile is 4:26. But if those track aficionados are very well aware that a 4:03 is definitely a lot faster in conversion than a 4:26. And we wish to welcome Kerri Gallagher. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good. For our viewers, Matt Centrowitz, who is with us today, is the father of the Olympic gold medalist, Matthew Centrowitz. So throughout the interview, when we start discussing Matt, I'm referring to our present guest, and Matthew, who is the son, the Olympic champion. The other thing is that Matt has written a book, which is done very well in sales. And the book is called Like Father, Like Son. And on the cover is Matt with Matthew. And we're going to get into the book because a lot of it is Matt Centrowitz's life stories here, which are very riveting, a lot of unreal stuff. And I think I speak on behalf of a lot of people when we implore people to please consider buying this book. It's not just a book about running, but it's a book about life as well. And we're also going to discuss that this might be in the works for a movie production very soon, which is really great. We're not going to reveal everything in the book. We want to get people to buy the book. So if we leave you with some cliffhangers, I guess that's pretty much what we want to do here. So let's get into some background because both of you are New York City products for the most part, right? Kerri is a Brooklynite, right? And why don't you tell us what high school you ran for? And
Sure, yeah, I went to Bishop Kearny High School in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn.
Right, and your coach was?
John Levitt.
Right.
Jasper legend John Levitt.
That's right. And John Levitt has also had a big influence on Matt as well. Matt Centrowitz grew up in the Bronx, Queens, Andrew Jackson High School, and then went on to Power Memorial, where you were part of some amazing high school teams, some amazing relays, and that's where you ran your 4:02 mile, which, as I mentioned before, we believe is still the oldest record on the books. Isn't that amazing to you that it's still the oldest record on the books?
Well, it's not amazing it's the oldest record on the books. I mean, it's amazing that it was so long ago. 1973 was a long time ago, and I added up. I can't even tell you how fast it went, but the journey's been great with running and all the benefits and the coaches that I met through the years. It's amazing at last, but things have changed, and one of the reasons I wrote the book, hopefully inspire some kids to challenge the record and break it. Right.
And to get into your book, you grew up in a very tough situation. Parents were pretty much separated. You had to live with your father for a little bit with your brother, which was not a happy situation. You eventually wound up with your mom. Your mom battled health problems. I remember reading when you were in college, she suffered an aneurysm, and doctors gave her like 1% chance of survival, and lo and behold, she survived, thank God. And, running really was your salvation, like for a lot of us. And so when you got to Andrew Jackson, which at that time period, there were New York City schools that were out of control, which is an understatement. Why don't you tell us some of the things that were going on back then?
There was a lot of things going on. It was a turbulent time everywhere with the riots, Vietnam. A lot of stuff was going on. But, being part of the team, I focused on student athlete and stayed focused regardless of what goes on around us. And that was one of the benefits, a huge benefit of being on a track cross-country team and having teammates that reinforced that we followed the program, we followed and did what we're supposed to do. And we were successful on the track and off as a team. Right.
And just before your sophomore year, junior year, you transferred to Power?
But after my ninth grade, I transferred.
Right.
We moved back up to the Bronx, and the real reason was if we went to a public school, I would have to sit out 2 years.
Right.
It was so if I jumped leagues and changed address, it was fine.
Right.
It was the first time I attended a Catholic institution, and was an adjustment there too, going from T-shirts to sport coats and ties and collared shirts. So I was adjusting to a lot of new things, and it was helpful, but it was tough at the same time.
Right, right. And, for those of you who are not aware, in that era, your address dictated what high school you went to, unless you got accepted to a Stuyvesant or a Bronx High School of Science or something like that. So, like, if you lived in a certain street, that's the school you were going to go to. As you mentioned, when you went back to the Bronx, you moved back, that did give you the option where you did go to a Catholic private school.
Correct.
Today's world of the New York City Department of Education is totally different. Any kid can pretty much go to whatever school they want. The address requirement really doesn't happen anymore.
So you mentioned John Lovett was a Hall of Fame member at Power and Manhattan College, and set numerous records, and also he was the kind of guy that would help other runners as well as had fun, worked hard. It was a good combination that I learned from the older runners, and we carried it on. A tradition at Power kept going.
Right. And two Staten Island things here, because we're not going to forget the forgotten borough in today's show. Number one, I would have to think that maybe one of your greatest high school disappointments was losing to Monsignor Farrell in the 4x800, coached by George Kochman.
Yeah.
So I've never seen video of the race, but I believe that you had to try to catch the anchor guy.
Yes.
If I'm correct.
You're correct.
And would you remember who the anchor guy was, or have we put that to rest?
Well, I probably remember, except for I'm in the studio, very nervous right now. I don't remember his name.
Head coach, it'll probably be the most uncomfortable question you're going to get today. So,
Thank you.
So don't worry about that. On another note, there's a discussion on Staten Island. We have the 3-mile Clove Lakes Park loop. Clove Lakes Park is the mecca of Staten Island running. Put on a race there, run there. Hundreds, thousands show up. We have a Staten Island Athletic Club weekly fun run every Saturday morning, 3 miles. There's a speed run that used to be run on Wednesday nights by Kurt Steiner when he was alive, and Joe Kleineman and Harry Murphy when they were alive. And now it's continued on Thursday nights by Tommy Hart. And one of the things that was brought up was we're still trying to debate what was the fastest 3-miler ever ran there. And just so you know, your name has come up, as well as Tony Colon. And the story is that you guys came back from the Pan Am Games and came down there, and we believe that both of you broke 14 minutes on a Wednesday or Thursday evening for the 3 miles. Do you remember any of that? Can you recall?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, because the only time I ran at Clove Lakes, Tony and I traveled together. It was Tony's idea. And Tony won the open division. I won the junior division. And it was like a Wednesday night series. I think I ran 14 minutes right on the nose, and he ran faster probably.
Right. Which, once again, we believe is the fastest ever.
I think I ran 14 minutes, you mentioned, because I ran 14, 17, and 5,000 meters, so it's not, which was a state record at the time, which is no longer, but it was a great place to run. I remember the people were friendly. We're going out there. Different atmosphere at Clove Lakes than it is at Van Cortlandt Park or Central Park.
Yeah, sometimes it is. It's I guess it's a hit or miss. Now, your 402 mile, when you ran that, once again, we believe this is the oldest record in the state high school list, was the track cinder?
No. It was at the Junior Nationals in Florida.
Okay, right. And did you have any competition in that race? Or were
yes,
you pretty
I finished
much
second and behind a college freshman who was a runner-up behind Dave Waddle in NC2A. So he was an established runner, big time. He ran 3:58 in the NC2A, and he ran 3:59 to beat me.
Wow. Hey, no shame losing to that, as far as I'm concerned.
I was very happy.
Right. And your best 1,500 in high school, though, was 3:43.
Yes.
Which, if you do the conversion, which is usually the 17-second conversion, like Coach Gallagher here, that means that you probably were around a 4-minute mile.
Yes. You can be more generous if you want.
3:59.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes, but unfortunately the stopwatch never lies. So, right. Now, Coach Gallagher here, Brooklyn girl, ran for Bishop Kearney, right? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your high school career there?
Yeah, it started in sophomore year, mostly because I was sitting on the bench a lot in JV basketball.
Right.
And so I was fortunate to be coached by John Lovett, because I showed up in Jordans my first day of practice, because all I knew was basketball. It was a very fortunate combination of things to have my mom encourage me to go out for cross country, and then to have a coach like John Lovett who just saw potential in everybody and just wanted to get people loving the sport and just kind of challenging themselves. And so it was a slow start for me, but it was just a very organic start. We had a great group of girls, and I loved it. So I went from I think I broke the 3-minute barrier for the 800 meters
Hey,
my
that's
first
great.
time out. So I was a Carney star right off the bat.
Right.
But I was able to work my way down to 2:17 and a half mile by the end of high school. So, recruited, but not a state champion, anything like that. But respectable enough to have some interest from some coaches, including Coach Matt here.
Right. And your first cross country race, do you remember it well?
I remember not having a uniform yet, so I was wearing a white tank top and navy blue shorts, which our colors were green, and I should have worn my gym uniform. I wasn't really thinking much, so I just remember Coach Levitt not realizing that I had already finished. I was the top finisher for Kearney, but he was kind of expecting me to be like 20 minutes or more, and I think I ran like 18 something for the 4K at Van Cortlandt, and so he didn't believe the other girls on the team when they said I finished. So one of the girls comes over and is like, Kerri, come here, you got to come over and show Coach Levitt your medal because he doesn't believe that you finished.
Wow.
So that was I remember just enjoying that. It was a lot of fun, and the second time was probably harder because then I knew what I was getting into.
Right. Well, it's ironic because Matt's first cross country race, running for Andrew Jackson, you crossed the line, and as you wrote in the book a little bit, some of the other coaches had an issue, right?
Yes.
Nobody was really like, oh, wow, what a phenom, what a great runner. Well, what were they saying about you?
Well, I was an oversized runner at the time, and obviously I looked a lot older than my age, so I had to verify that I was only 14.
You obviously progressed to the point where you were recruited,
Yes.
and you chose Manhattan College for your first year.
Yes.
And that's when Gags was there. Freddie Dwyer. I believe they had just come off their NCAA championship.
Yes.
Right? So, but then after a year, you switched over to Oregon.
Yes.
And going out there, why don't you tell us about going out there and your interactions, and especially the one coach who still you value to this day?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I just came back from a week of touring around with the coach in Oregon, and seeing Haywood Field again, torn up, but seeing the new stadium being erected for people, it's going to be quite a scene when it opens up. But I was looking for a new challenge. I lived in that neighborhood, Manhattan College, and the runners there were very friendly and helping my development. So I have a lot of respect for those guys. They're still my lifelong friends, are alumni of the track team, and stay in constant contact with them. And I appreciate everything they did. But obviously I was looking for a new challenge, and Manhattan College at that time wasn't co-ed. It was a different setting than the new school it is today.
And the coach we're referring to is Bill Dillinger.
Yes.
Who was the 1964 Olympic bronze medalist at 5,000.
Correct.
Who coached after, well, basically it's the three Bills, right? It was Bill Hayward, Bill Bowerman, and then Bill Dillinger.
Correct.
And Dillinger had a very profound effect on you. And we had discussed the other day on the phone that a new documentary was just made on him.
Yeah, The Magician.
The Magician.
Just released. The other thing you have to know, in Oregon had 18 sub-4-minute milers before I attended there. So it was something, the program was that good, and I want to be challenged that way. And whether I could do it or not, I wasn't sure, but at least I want to give myself that shot.
Right. And, keep in mind, viewers, Matt also trained with Steve Prefontaine. And later on, you would break one of Pre's school records, if you wouldn't mind discussing that quick.
Yes, the 1,500 meter.
Here comes Centrowitz. There goes Matt. He's got to lift it all the way down. He wants desperately Marty LaFourie's record.
But Matt Centrowitz took his hard edges and carved out a career as one of America's best runners in the 70s and early 80s.
For the fourth time, Matt Centrowitz has run the 5,000 meters. Matt Centrowitz breaks the American record,
which is a lot easier than his 3 miles and his 5,000 and his 10,000. The other American records that he set, but the 1,500, I ran 3:36 to make the Olympic team in 76, and it was also a school record.
Right. And in your book, which I don't want to reveal everything, you had somewhat of a distant relationship with Prefontaine, but then it was starting to get closer prior to he died tragically in the car crash.
Yeah, I think part of the thing, the track we got going, I think I'd broken 4 minutes in a mile a couple weeks earlier, and I think that was whatever that bond was, I would respect. It could be easily interpreted whether I was going to make it Oregon or not. I was a transfer student, and basically not transferring is not a good thing most of the time. Mm-hmm. And you're better off staying home working through your problems. But for me, I needed a new environment, and I responded very well to Coach Dillinger.
And in 76, you make the Olympic team.
Yes.
You're in the 1,500. And You unfortunately get eliminated in the semis.
Very quickly, I was eliminated.
Very quickly, right. And in the book, you did say that, John Walker running 52 seconds for his last 400 to win the gold medal, I got to move up.
Move up.
And you were still in Oregon as well, and a new class of runners were coming in. Alberto Salazar, Rudy Chapa, all these guys were coming in, and you were kind of like the de facto boss of some sort, right?
I was somewhat of a leader
Right.
on the track and off. I seemed to be in a New York City kid. It was easy for me to navigate Eugene, Oregon, and it was a lot of fun. And I sometimes got into mischief, and enjoyed the experience. So it was a great college experience. But we had great teammates. We also had a guy called Don Clary,
Right.
who was broke the state record by over 50 seconds in a 2-mile in Alaska, which is pretty amazing. So everybody in the team was a different character from all different parts of the country, and we learned a lot from each other, and that's part of the education of a runner. Runners learn from other runners, and coaches are great sources of information, but also your teammates, and that's what I was lucky to have.
Now, Coach Gallagher, when you left Kearney, you was on to Fordham University, right? So why don't you discuss with us a little bit about your college performances there, because they are nothing short of outstanding.
Fordham was a great fit for me. It was a good place where I could come in and learn, being in college, being away from home for the first time, but not too far away, within the 5 boroughs. But
Right.
Brooklyn to Bronx can feel kind of long. But it had a pretty modest start, a pretty slow start, and but as I started to get more serious about the sport and get a taste, little tastes of success and some taste of failure, I think my freshman year outdoors, I was 9th in the 800, so I was one place out of scoring, and that just didn't sit well, and that kind of motivated me to come back sophomore year, much more serious, much more focused, and so it was a pretty steady progression. But I was a consistent scorer, and by junior year I was winning some conference events, and then top 3 in others. And by my senior year, I had established myself as kind of the leader in the middle distance events in the conference, and had a lot of fun kind of defending those descending order lists and those titles when it came to the championship. So, I was just fortunate to be around good teams and have the opportunity to be a leader, which is a place I feel like I thrive in. So
Right, and that was Coach Tom Dewey, right?
Yeah, he's had just a great success there. Number of school records broken, conference champions, regional qualifiers, All-Americans. He really left his mark.
Big time. And what you guys, you both realize as athletes, whether you ran from Manhattan and Oregon, I consider your sophomore year at Oregon to be your freshman year. Because once again, new school, new environment, same thing. You were like, what, we have to develop over the long term. And I know that that's the philosophy you guys are bringing back to Manhattan College right now with a lot of the young athletes, especially those 3 Staten Island guys who, Don Baccia, Ryan Tierney, and Mark Herrera. Okay, there I said it. Okay, so their parents will be very happy. So back to Coach Centrowitz now. You're running spectacular. You're running world-class 5,000 meters, right?
And one thing I look back at my father was, this is toughness.
Listen to this crowd, cheer him on.
The 80 Olympics comes along, and there's the boycott. And you actually wrote in the book a little bit about how the White House had you guys there. You were all given these medals, and you did think it was the greatest thing, the greatest honor at the moment, until afterwards, when you saw that quite a few people got these medals who maybe shouldn't have gotten them. And my own personal opinion, he was just developing during this era, but Carl Lewis to an extent, you, Alberto, Bill Rogers, I think Craig Virgin, really got screwed in 80 with the boycott.
Yes, that's definitely true. And also, if you think of Edwin Moses' streak, another Olympic gold medal, certainly would have been his. So there's a lot of ways of looking at it. But I at the time, I convinced myself I'm an American, and if I could avoid a war, our commander-in-chief said, this is the right thing to do. And so I fell in line and followed the instructions. So to give up a track meet or the Olympics, it's still just a track meet. And if it's going to save lives and avert a war, I was happy to do it at the time.
Right.
And in retrospect, I'm not very happy they didn't follow up on too many things. But anyway, that's just politics. And unfortunately, the Olympics was designed to make sure that wars stopped and we went on with the games. But that didn't happen.
That's correct. Yeah. But after that, though, you started still competing on the track unbelievably well. And as a young runner, myself and my pal Tony Gallagher got to meet you in 1982 at the Trevera Twosome 10-miler,
Nice.
which some people aren't aware, but everybody says, oh, Matt Centrowitz, yeah, the 5K guy, yeah, the miler. But you ran something like 47 minutes and change that day or something like that for the 10-miler to beat Jeff Smith, Frank Shorter, and a host of others. And I remember the race very well. It was my first 10 miles, hot as heck out there. And when the run was over, my coach at the time was Art Hall.
Right.
And Art took Tony and I and brought him up to you and Frank Shorter and Jeff Smith. And you were in a rush because you had to go somewhere. And I later found out from the New York Times article that you and Jeff Smith were coaching already at this point, collegiately.
Jeff was competing.
Jeff was competing, right? But you were coaching, and you both had to get to a meet.
He was older than me. He was still competing. That's the part that to get a kick out of.
All right.
I was at St. John's, and
Right.
Big East were at Villanova that day, so we had to hustle down there before the meet started.
Right. So it was actually Tony and my first foray into meeting real world-class runners. And Craig Virgin was present that day, but he was just announcing.
Really?
He was announcing. For some reason, he didn't run. He was like the MC for the
That
race.
was lucky for me. I ran 46:39, but Craig
Okay,
could
there
run
you go.
faster. Craig definitely would have ran faster.
Yeah. So Craig's another unbelievably fantastic running legend who, when he ran his 8:40 for 2 miles in high school, you ran that day, I believe, 8:48?
No, unfortunately, I was 8:56.
Okay, well, sorry about that, Coach. I wish I could put in the 8:48.
We can make it. I don't think there'll be too many fact-finding guys that could find me out.
Right. Now, what happened was that when you became a world-class runner, especially in the early 80s, you coached at St. John's a bit.
Right.
You were making some financial stuff from the sport.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you had started having, I believe, hamstring issues leading up to the 84 Olympics.
Yes, I was in.
Which
yes.
kind of, unfortunately, ended pretty much your running career.
Correct.
And you left the sport for a while.
Yes.
Yes, right? And I guess we could say that if Starbucks had not come along, Centrowitz coffee would be like all over the friggin' nation. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about that?
Gourmet coffee.
Right.
There was a guy in Oregon, it was a runner, and he was from Costa Rica, and he introduced me. He was making fresh roasted coffee, and he was very successful at it, and was wholesaling and retailing, and I brought it back east before the boom hit, and it was a little early and a little underfunded, and it didn't work out for me. But,
Yeah, timing is everything, you
and
know?
Unfortunately,
So-
I got a coaching job with Coach Gaggs.
What makes running different than other sports? I think it's really a lot of individual in running.
With the Enclave at that time, and part-time at American University.
Right, down in D.C., which is
Correct. So I
great,
moved
which is
down there.
great.
Thanks to Gaggs, we recruited me down there.
Right. You were probably out of the sport, like really didn't have a pulse on it for a good 4 years.
Well, true, I wasn't had an official role, but I did coach several people on the side, and I did have a finger in it. And,
Right.
And they did pretty well, and I seemed to have some success.
Right.
And that's why Coach Gaggs seeked me out, because he's seen some of the runners that I coached that did pretty well.
And I know one of the runners was Ross Donahue, who
Correct.
finished second in the Fifth Avenue Mile, I believe behind Steve Scott. Yeah, that's pretty good.
He
And,
had made the finals Olympic trials.
Yep. It's funny because, believe it or not, your careers are almost parallel because after your collegiate career, you just went to work,
Yeah.
right? So, and you were probably out of the sport for about a couple of years?
No, not that long.
Oh, no.
It was only a couple weeks.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yes.
Right.
I had taken a job at Morgan Stanley Smith Barney
Right.
because that's what people do. You get a job, you take it.
Right.
And I had no intentions of continuing running because I just didn't know much about it, nor did I think I had that opportunity. But Coach Matt here had a club team down in D.C. and
Right.
the opportunity to go down and train with him was presented to me by John Levitt. And I had always wanted to run for Matt. He had recruited me down to American. I wasn't ready to leave New York City yet, but I always wanted to run for him. I knew that. So I guess that was dormant for 4 years while I was at Fordham. I was very, very happy at Fordham. But when the opportunity came up, that came back. And
Right.
yeah, so I went against my dad's and a few other people's advice, quit my job, and moved to D.C.
And became a a very amateur runner.
No, I don't know about that.
No,
I was very green.
Fiscally, she was broke. Okay, let's live on a shoestring budget. What I meant by amateur.
Yes,
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
A lot of the athletes do that. It's one of the things that I think perplexes a lot of fans and supporters of the sport, is that you could be ranked 10th in the mile in America and you get a shoe.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
it kind of
pretty much
worked out
about
for
it.
me because I was nowhere near those rankings.
Right.
So I don't think I would have qualified for any of that. But
Right.
it was a good move. And I hadn't run for about 3 weeks. But then as soon as I made that decision, Matt called me pretty soon after and told me to start running again.
Right,
so,
right.
So yeah, it was only 3 weeks that I didn't run, but I had a lifetime intention of never running. So,
Right.
So to get back into that mindset was kind of interesting.
And you've never left it at this point.
And I went from competing right into coaching. So fortunately, the transition was very smooth.
Right. And I guess, you must be thrilled to death with how you qualified for the World Championships.
Yeah.
Right? I remember watching you finish second in the Millrose Mile.
Yeah.
So I think that day you ran
That was
4:26, right? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
At the time, that was the 7th indoor U.S. indoor all time. So that was pretty cool.
No, that is. So,
And it was nice redemption because the year before I was very last.
Right.
Very last in the women's 3K.
Right.
Very unprepared for that opportunity. So it was a nice kind of to come back and get and have some redemption in front of a home crowd.
Yeah, and I think one of the rewards for coaching is to see that athlete, whether it's us or the athlete you're coaching, everyone's going to have their pitfalls, but it depends on how they're going to go above that, And back to the Enclave, which in the 90s was the Reebok Enclave. We had 2 Staten Islanders on the club, Neil Donahue,
Right.
and who I didn't think lasted very long, but he showed up for a 3-mile at Clove Lakes. Your records are safe. He ran about 14:20. And Kevin Germain, who was inducted into our Staten Island Sports Hall of Fame recently, who later on became a coach at Duke University,
Right.
and now is like he's at Eaton. Right, Eaton in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Right, and he's also one of the USA coaches, I think, for the Pan Am team. And he's always been somebody who's really been into the sport. And always gives a lot of credit to you whenever I see him. So he does well. Now, it's awfully funny because one thing we're not going to mention in the book is that if you believe that Matt Centrowitz was this parent who told his kids, "You're going to run," and that's it, you're in for a surprise. There's a lot of great anecdotes in the book about how Matt, the father here, separated himself totally from the sport when it came to his kids. And 2 of his kids, Lauren,
Right.
went on to Stanford, NCAA champion, and of course Matthew.
Right.
And it's really interesting how you really did a laissez-faire, hands-off situation with them when it came to track until they made the commitment to say, hey, you know what, I really want to do this. And I remember in 2012, Matthew walking through the opening ceremonies in London, taking in the whole Olympic experience, and then in the final finishes 4th, which is, I think he was 0.2 from a medal. And frustrating without a doubt. Without revealing the book, you handled it in a spectacular way post-race with all his friends and buddies all around. In 2016, where I was fortunate enough to be down in Rio with Tony Gallardo, myself, and
Right.
Tony's son Josh, I remember showing up and Tony's reading something about Matthew and he's saying, hey, Matthew hasn't even arrived down here yet. He's not even walking in the opening ceremonies. And then I was thinking with my running history that Sebastian Coe did the same thing, as did Steve Ovett. They didn't march in their opening ceremonies in the 2 Olympics that they were in because the track stuff is always later on in the program. So that first week, gymnastics, all that other stuff, you could argue that coming down there too early could take your focus off of what you want to do.
Correct.
Matthew had been on such a roll in 2015, 2016 at that point. My nickname for him is the Maestro because
Maestro.
I've told you guys this before that I think that if it came to chess, if it came to a conductor of an orchestra, he could do it blindfolded. He seems to have this uncanny sixth sense to put himself in the proper position, the right place at the right time. It is astounding to me as a fan to watch, no matter what the pace is.
Yeah.
Now, what are you thinking with 2 laps to go? You're in front, but you know that everybody's going to come flying down the stretch.
I got to the point now, I think, with, like you said, after 800 meters, it's too late in the race to let anyone by. And so I think momentarily one of the athletes went by me for about 20 meters and had to fight for that position back again going to the last lap. And it was just about holding them off at that point.
And your thoughts right there as you cross the finish line? What's
Disbelief.
in your mind?
I mean, it's a lifelong dream come true, really. And so to have my family, friends in the stands watching. Could not have scripted any better.
An Olympic final, World Championship final, is usually not about time. It's about position, right? And do you guys still do that with your athletes, for NCAAs and higher level events as well?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you prepare for however that race is going to unfold. It could be fast, it could be slow. You just want to have a tool belt to be ready for either of those scenarios. You see both, but I guess slow tends to be more popular.
Right. I guess nobody really wants to take it.
Yeah.
Pretty much, but being a fan in that stadium, watching that unfold, and for our viewers out there, Matthew Centrowitz is the first American to win the 1500 since 1908, Mel Sheppard of New Jersey. And so as Bob Costas said, hey, the Chicago Cubs won in 1908, and the Chicago Cubs won the World Series in 2016. Maybe Matthew will do the same thing, and he sure did. He sure did. And one of my two favorite moments of mine is we were able to walk around the stadium quite openly in Rio. I stumbled upon Matt with the whole crew. They're all going crazy and everything. And we all run to try to get into the front row area for the medal ceremony. And you included me, which I'm grateful for. You're like, yeah, come on along, Jeff, let's go. And it was great. And I remember that there was a security guy there with the ribbon saying, no, you can't. And people were like, oh, come on, this guy's the father, and he let us in.
Yeah.
And there's Sebastian Coe, two-time winner. He goes and puts the medal around Matt and says, welcome to the club. So, and without jinxing anything, Matt is off to an outstanding start, in my own opinion, this year. I mean, he hasn't raced at all, and he ran a 3:52 mile a few weeks ago at the Prefontaine meet. And obviously the goal is for the World Championships to try to qualify in a few weeks at USA Nationals. And the World Championships are a little later this year in October. But I also think the fact that he really hasn't raced within a year has set him up to be very fresh, hopefully catapulting him into 2020. At least that's what I hope. You could say no comment, but that's me, the track fan,
I'm not going to argue with you.
It would be really great if young Matthew would join Seb's other exclusive club, with which Seb is only a member. Sebastian Coe is the only man to win the 1500 meter twice. I guess I have to ask you the great question. Your son's great tattoo, like father, like son.
Yes.
You did say if you won the gold medal, you're going to get a tattoo. So what is going on with this? Do you have it?
I lied.
Oh, no.
I had no intention of getting a tattoo. Never will.
What if he wins it again?
I'll lie again.
All right. Why don't we talk a little bit about the Centrowitz running camp?
Great topic.
Yes.
Great. I'll talk to my head counselor here. He does all the
camp
work.
Director as well.
Camp directors.
Right.
Well, ask Kerri more. She does a lot of organizing for the camp, and it's been there for about 10 years. It's been a wonderful experience up in Newport, Rhode Island, and that's end of July, beginning of August, and we renamed it the Centrowitz Running Camp.
It's a great camp. I attended as a high schooler 2 summers, way before I ever imagined being involved on the administrative end of it. And it's just a great resource for young runners, and for even training there as a post-collegiate. It was so fun to be around just these kids who just love running and to learn,
Right, and at your guys' invitation, I attended the camp last year for a couple of days. I was a good boy. I didn't eat that much ice cream because Coach was telling me watch the ice cream, we're on budget. But I got to meet Pat Tyson. Pat Tyson is one of Oregon's greatest runners. Contemporary Prefontaine, Coach Centrowitz, maybe the best high school cross-country coach in America.
Probably.
At Gonzaga.
Probably.
Well, I wouldn't argue with you.
And Chris Kwiatkowski from Oregon, who is Matthew's best buddy. And Chris ran like 105 for the half marathon, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Right?
And I went to national championships in 10K, I believe.
Yeah.
And college. So that was wonderful. He'll be back this year, as well as my son will be attending the camp.
The Olympic champion, Matthew Centrowitz, will be at the camp.
With his medal.
How cool is that?
Now, I'll probably be wearing it, but...
Coach Centrowitz was gracious enough for us back in 2017 to have an event on Staten Island where we did run out of books to sell, which I warned you about. I said, hey, you should have brought 300 books, right? And
You're right.
Matthew brought the gold medal, and to wear that medal was beyond historic. And actually, it's funny you mentioned Dave Waddle before, the great 800-meter runner. Tom Fleming, the 2-time New York City Marathon champ, who sadly passed away a few years ago, my coach for 25 years, he told us a story how after he won the gold medal, Dave went to a camp with Tom out in Pennsylvania, and Waddle met the kids and everything, and then Tom drove him to the airport, and about a month later, Tom's cleaning out the trunk of his car, and in there is Waddle's gold medal. Waddle didn't even remember that he lost the gold medal.
Wow.
So let's talk about the future of the Manhattan College program, because you guys were brought in, and all of a sudden the program has experienced a really great, I wouldn't want to say a rebirth, because the program has always been very good, but just more attention has been given to it, more of a staff now, more scholarship, and a lot of solid backing from alumni, which is really great. So Coach Gallagher, why don't you tell us what's going on?
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of excitement just coming into Manhattan College, cross country and track and field again. It's got a great history. You've got coaches on the staff that have all been at Manhattan in some way or another. And so there's a real connection to the school, to the tradition from the staff. And all the athletes that are coming in can really sense that, and they are excited to kind of make their mark and put their contribution. Now, it takes time to build a program or rebuild a program. So there's going to be growing pains, and all of us have run our good races and our bad ones, and we know our bad ones are just as important towards that success. So it's just an exciting time. We're growing, and there's a lot of enthusiasm from the athletes, a lot of enthusiasm from the alumni, and just kind of fans of the program. So it's a good time to be a Jasper.
Right. Well, thanks to Manhattan Neighborhood Network and Will Sanchez for hosting us today. Thanks again, Will. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay.